What's up, Space Pirates? This is your Admiral, the jubilant jabroni Dr. Disaster. And I didn't make a video about the Nintendo Switch 2 news yesterday because I don't want to do the knee-jerk reaction thing and then find out that what I was talking about is incorrect. I figured I'd wait a day and let the cooler heads prevail because, as we all know, of course, that's how the internet works, right?
Sure, Jan.
Well, anyhow, in case you were stuck in a cave yesterday without access to the internet, the Nintendo Switch 2 was officially revealed, along with all the specs and price points and everything else, and I, as a big fan of Nintendo, I've owned every Nintendo console ever, and I buy damn near every first-party Nintendo game that they make, because I'm generally a big believer in their studios. They prioritize fun over things like graphics, which I strongly advocate. But anyhow, I and almost everyone else saw the initial revealed information for the Switch 2, and I immediately thought,
totally and completely badass.
But then things took a darker turn. The price point for Mario Kart World was revealed, and all hell broke loose. People have understandably lost their minds over the fact that it seems that the new standard price point for Nintendo games is higher than the price point for PS5 games. This has pissed a lot of people off, though, to be clear, I'm not one of them, and I'll explain my thinking in a moment, but what really does annoy me is the fact that Nintendo is feeding coal into a train that I'd rather not see sped up. As an old school gamer, as someone who collects and appreciates physical media in all things, I am not at all a fan of the idea that physical copies of Switch 2 games cost more than digital. Yes, I know that a massive chunk of gamers are willingly choosing to go this way, but we can't help it if this is their attitude.
What? I love garbage.
Alright, me hearties, make sure you hit the like button on this video in order to fend off the algorithm monster, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and also, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. Audiobook of a dark fantasy novel I've written will be available for members first very soon, and there is also a space pirate cartoon that I'm working on. The thing is, I realized it's important that we not just complain about what we don't like. Alternatives must be provided, so I humbly ask that you consider becoming a member of the channel for the fraction of the cost of your daily cup of coffee. In any event, Nintendo had big announcements yesterday, and we gotta talk about what has become the biggest one: the price of their games. First of all, as for the $80 price point, I am likely in the minority here, but I am not bothered by the price of Mario Kart. I know a lot of people are, and I get it. $80 is a crap ton of money for a video game, but as someone who has willingly paid that amount and more for Nintendo games back in the day, I don't necessarily see this as a problem. As Razorfist pointed out on X, all of these games here sold for and were absolutely worth $80. Star Fox, Final Fantasy III, Majora's Mask, and Earthbound, a lineup of games that are clearly worth an $80 price tag. Or take a look at this old ad here, showing all kinds of prices for Super Nintendo games that were either $80 or more. And now, before you angrily type a response, let me finish my thoughts. I'm saying that $80 is fine as long as it's worth it. If Mario Kart World ends up being as amazing as it looks like it could be, then the price point might be correct. I'm a capitalist, and if Nintendo can get this price, then go for it. But here's the thing. They'd better not put out any stinkers at such a price point. As I said before, I buy just about every first-party Nintendo game that they put out, everything from Splatoon to Zelda to Kirby. I even own a copy of Balloon Fight for the NES, for Pete's sake. But there are definitely some games which aren't as good as others. As an example, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is a fun game that I own on Wii U, and I own the Nintendo Switch port, but that game was priced significantly cheaper than the baseline Nintendo Switch price of $60. I got my copy for $40, and with good reason. It's fun, but it's not great, and it isn't very long either. And for the record, apparently $80 isn't necessarily the standard for Nintendo games either. As you can see here, Donkey Kong is being priced at $70, which is still higher than old Switch games, but it sounds like the $80 standard price point is not correct. So once again, to reiterate, $80 in my mind is okay, with the caveat that Nintendo has to up their game and earn it for that amount of money. If they start spinning out all kinds of DLC and microtransactions to accompany this $80 price tag, then I'm going to be pissed for sure. And for anyone who disagrees and who are pointing out that once again Gabe Newell continues to do nothing and keeps winning over on Steam, and for those people making the claim that PC is the way to go, no real arguments here. I generally agree, but Nintendo often makes great games that you can only get exclusively through them. So, for those of us who appreciate Nintendo software, we're not necessarily put off by more expensive pricing. All that said though, what does annoy the hell out of me is this price difference between physical games and digital. I know this isn't necessarily a new thing in the industry, it has happened before, but I don't much like it at all that Nintendo is jumping on board with this. In their minds, I can see why this is being done. Obviously, the fewer cartridges and game cases that they have to manufacture, the cheaper their overhead becomes, and I get that. And hell, if we're playing the long game, if we're looking at the long-term profit for this company, Nintendo obviously can't wait for the day when they don't even have to add a spot to insert a cartridge into their game systems at all. An exclusively digital console would save them a ton of money, but it is generally worse for a lot of gamers. Personally, I am a big collector of games and game systems. For reference, I own literally hundreds of consoles which I keep in storage. I have mountains of old NES and SNES systems that I buy broken, I work on them, get them running again, and I've sold them to friends and family, but typically, I just like to collect. I keep all my old Nintendo games, I sell a large chunk of Xbox and PlayStation titles, at least the ones that aren't my favorites, but I haven't sold a Nintendo game in literal decades, and if I were to sell my collection, I could damn near put my kids through college, which brings me to one of the most important value propositions that physical media offers consumers, the resale value. If I buy a digital copy of Mario Kart World, then that's it. I'm stuck with it, even if it ends up being a turd, which I doubt it will, but for argument's sake, let's say that Nintendo really drops the ball on this game. Let's say that Mario Kart World becomes one of the most despised games of all time. The digital copy is something you are stuck with. But if you hate the game, you can always trade it in. You can always trade in a physical copy towards something else at your local game store. Or you can sell it to a buddy, or put it on eBay, or whatever. You can dump a physical copy, but you are stuck with a digital one. Not to mention, as I said, my collection of games is fairly sizable, and someday, when my kids inherit my stuff, they can sell Dad's collection and make a pretty penny. In fairness, digital does have some advantages. It's convenient to not have to insert a disc or a cartridge. They can never be damaged or lost, causing you to have to repurchase, but the cost of any game I've ever had to replace in the almost 30 years that I've been gaming is microscopic in comparison to the amount of value I have sitting around in case it's needed. So, speaking as a collector, I find it annoying that I have to pay the physical copy tax. A lot of people are assuming this means that Mario Kart will be $90 for physical copies, though I've heard this disputed, and that actually this means that digital is only 70 and that physical is 80. However that shakes down though, I don't care for Nintendo incentivizing something that is bad for gamers in the long run. It may be good for them, but Nintendo has always thrived on having at least a reasonable relationship with gamers. They make games that are consistently enjoyable, and I'd like to see them rescind this idea and continue to do right by the gaming community. But of course, as I said before, I'm a capitalist, and I support their ability to sell things however they see fit. We'll see what the market thinks though, but I'm gonna leave it there. What do you make of all the Switch 2 news? What do you think of the new pricing? Is the Switch 2 a day one purchase for you? Drop your thoughts into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.